It was the dawn of civilization. Yoga was conceived 5,000 years ago in the Indian subcontinent. By the 8th or 9th centuries BCE, a collection of beautiful verses called the Upanishads were composed. These verses crystallized deep philosophical ideas which were to last forever. Yoga was fundamental in the vision of life contained in these. The Katha Upanishad of 3,000 years ago says, "He whose senses are uncontrolled, who is not tranquil, whose mind is not at rest, he can never hope to attain the true self, not even through knowledge." The Katha Upanishad also says, "The Supreme, being formless, cannot be discerned by the senses. Hence all knowledge of the eternal must be acquired by the more subtle faculties. These are developed only through the purifying practice of meditation."
The biggest question that is asked by the research scientists today is, how does it happen? But the biggest question asked by the ancient rishis, who are the great scientists of ancient times, was, who am I? Ko hum. Modern science has its eyes outward. It is always looking at someone else, something else, or someplace else. The yoga drishti, the yogic perspective, has always been inward, looking at one's own self, understanding who we are, understanding the answer to the question, ko hum, who am I?
In recent times, science and spirituality have been separated. This was not so in ancient times. Yoga is the challenging study of consciousness itself, understanding one's body, understanding one's emotions, understanding one's mind, and beyond that, understanding one's true self. Conquering the fretful disturbances of the world around, great thinkers researched deep into the self. This was an epic project spread over many centuries. A science of life was developed to help us to know ourselves better, to help us to attain the peace and joy which can be found within. Yoga quite literally means to unite oneself with the higher self, which is in us and is all pervasive. It means to join the subject with the object. To do this, we have to strip away the many layers of momentary sensory perceptions which assail our senses. These keep us forever bound to the material world. Our perceptions must be detached from the external world to look within. We live amid much turmoil and confusion in the material world. The state of mental and physical health has deteriorated considerably. It is estimated that 70% of all costs in the health system are because of chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and osteoarthritis. There are hardly any permanent solutions to these, from either medicinal therapy or surgery. Mental ailments are also expected to reach epidemic levels very soon.
What's happened in the Western world is that we have been very good at pursuing the outer material, media-based world, but we have lost our connections to a great extent with the inner world of consciousness and direct perception.
I think that all of the yogic traditions of India, whether they stayed in India or went to Tibet or went elsewhere, are all pointing to this same vision and this same type of practice, this same path of reconnecting with what is most true and most essential about our own being.
So yoga deconstructs our outer world view of physical reality, but restores our inner sense of the immortal, transcendent, overflowing universe of consciousness. When yoga speaks of self-realization or purusha, this is not simply our human self. This is the self or the spirit behind nature. This is the consciousness that's in the sun, the moon, the stars, the plants, the waters, the fire. So yoga is about uniting our individual mind with the universal consciousness, which is full of bliss.
Yoga takes us to awareness, true self-awareness. In yoga, we calm ourselves. We see that we are less affected by the noise and distractions of the ever-changing world around us. From there, we go to an awareness of the mind. Yoga and ancient Indian thought do not consider the mind to be consciousness itself. The mind is in many ways like our body. We have to see it. We have to be aware of it.
The chitta is that subconscious, unconscious mind that is constantly in motion. The ancient rishis said the mind is a monkey. Not just a monkey, it is a drunken monkey, and on top of that, bitten by a scorpion. Now, if that is the mind, it is constantly in motion. Whirlpools of the subconscious mind, they just drag you down away from your goal even before you can blink an eyelid.
When you do asanas, your mind becomes focused, and when mind becomes focused, it becomes still. And when mind is still, there is no desire. And when there is no desire, you attain happiness. It's all about mind and controlling the mind. It's very hard when your mind is running like a wild horse, unwilling to follow any discipline, and it's very tough to gently take over it, to make it listen to you, to make it follow what you would like it to do.
A lot of people practice yoga, but they jump over the foundation of yoga, which is the two main practice of yama and niyama. What that means is the prescription of the yogis of things not to do and things to do. That means the restriction and the observances.
Yama niyama basically means a method. It's actually a technology for evolving from the dominance of the animal brain into the conscious use of the human brain. So Patanjali starts, do not harm. How brilliant this is. And from that, the other yamas, the control of the tongue, the control of the sexual desire, the control of greed, the desire to steal, all these things that are natural impulses for survival, necessary for survival in the animal world. He says, control those, restrain those.
There are 4 paths of yoga. Karma yoga, the path of selfless actions in the world. Bhakti yoga, the path of losing one's ego through surrender and devotion. Raja yoga, the path of pranayam and the asanas leading to meditation. And Jnana Yoga, or the path to salvation through knowledge.
The modern world is trying to follow through on the promise of ego satisfaction all the way down the line, as far as it can possibly go, still hoping that at the end of this road there will be some final and perfect payoff. That if we continue to upgrade our phones and continue to have higher definition video quality and continue to have more and more convenient and delicious foods, whether they're nutritious or not, that somehow at the end of the day all of this sensory experience will lead to a lasting state of satisfaction. And we just haven't figured out how to stop, or when to stop, or when to look in a different direction. And this is entirely the promise of yoga practice.
You start to become content with whatever you have in life. And suddenly, your husband becomes the best husband, your wife becomes the best wife, your children become the best children, your house becomes the best house, and you become the best you. Your life becomes the best life.
What the Vedic philosophy teaches us is that the entire creation is born of the ananda, or bliss, overflowing of bliss, overflowing of peace, overflowing of the delight, the power of consciousness manifests itself as the universe. And yoga teaches us how to awaken that ananda so that we don't have to look externally for happiness. We find that happiness is the very nature of everything and the very nature of our own selves.
Scientific research done in the last 30 to 40 years has confirmed the benefits of yoga. It has been found that it contributes to the health and happiness of people in all walks of life. Further research needs to be done, and yoga needs to be introduced in all branches of education and medicine, and even in the workplace. Yoga goes far beyond the medical system. It not only prevents disease, but it covers all aspects of life. Integration of yoga and modern medicine would help the world to shift from disease management to health promotion.
Yoga has come a long way from the hermitages, the ashrams in the forests, from the caves of the high Himalayas. It is now found as here in a modern hospital. What we started from last year, which was actually part of the second...
The entire essence is a concept called samatvam, which means balance. And it's very logical. When you are balanced, your body heals itself daily through whatever problems, infections, diseases, stress-related inducements which are created in your body. So balance is what restores and heals you. No medicine does. You think about it, most allopathic medicines basically cut the symptoms. They provide symptomatic relief. They don't cure. You look at it simply. If I have diabetes and I'm taking an allopathic medicine, what that allopathic medicine does, it cuts the symptoms. But the moment I stop that allopathic medicine, I get the diabetes back again. However, if I am balanced, I'm able to fight the imbalance caused in the sugar, and I'm able to restore health by having my body fight the diabetic influence.
I have this condition that's called the restless leg syndrome. It's also called Willis-Ekbom disease. It's a nerve, neuromuscular pain in the leg, and I've had it for about 15, 20 years. And since it's a neuromuscular condition, the medicines are neurological, invasive to the nervous system. Meditation and pranayama actually helps me keep the pain either in control or pretty much not experience it at all, which helps me also not take the medicines. That's one. The second is for diabetes. I used to take the highest dose of sulfonylureas about 6 months ago. Now I don't take them at all.
People who have genetic tendencies towards different conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, well, we can maybe prevent those genetic potentialities from becoming actualities. Because our genes are like a loaded gun. The gun is loaded, but whether the trigger is pulled or not, that choice lies with us. Yoga enables us to make the right choice.
Step by step in the last years, we see more and more acceptance of yoga, also in mainstream medicine, also in skeptical doctors. That means yoga is now almost an established part of standard medical care in Germany.
Modern medicine tends to be a bit divided between psychiatry on the one hand and physical medicine on the other hand. And the two really don't talk to each other, and yet obviously the mind and body are inextricably linked. And so yoga addresses that link between mind and body.
Yoga research at NIMHANS has shown very impressive results with respect to the biological changes in the brain and other places in the body, which would be conducive for better emotional recovery and also better mental health promotion. Yoga can help better repair of the brain. Each day the brain wears and tears though, and there is a inbuilt system that brain could dynamically keep getting in quotes repaired, and one of the chemicals that is required for such upkeeping of the brain is called as the brain derived neurotropic factor. We've demonstrated that practice of yoga produced increases in the levels of the brain derived neurotropic factor, so which means brain started developing some inherent strength to repair itself.
I've just seen the, chaos that's basically going on among teenagers, and especially the substance abuse that's going on in the high schools. They need help. They have no idea where to turn to. And they're all basically numbing their feelings. They're numbing their true nature because they have the feeling they are not able to be who they are. There's not enough compassion, or there's just they need help. They need help at the end of the day, and it's I think yoga can give us that.
Yoga has a relevance in that it provides skills and outcomes that society currently, Western modern society currently doesn't have. And these are essentially behavioral skills that allow us to manage our minds and our bodies and our emotions in a very effective way.
I played soccer for 28 years, and the last half of that time was a very high speed, very aggressive, very physical nature game that I played, and it called for a certain body type. So as I've slowly evolved away from that, I've completely surrendered to the practice of yoga. So I was able to transform myself from an animal warrior to a spiritual warrior. I say from a personal standpoint, surrender. Just surrender all that and allow your ego to soften and just become like water. And your life will open up, your heart will open up, your mind will open up.
In a world where strife and conflict have been growing, yoga has proved to be of exceptional value. It has provided solace to prisoners in jails. This ancient science of life is being used to rehabilitate them in society.
This partnership between the government of São Paulo and the government of India is a really amazing opportunity to bring the yoga to the women who are facing this condition of vulnerabilities in prison.
In Colombia, nowadays we have like around 7 million victims of the armed conflict. Like 70% of these people have lost their lands, have lost their house, have lost their income. We are convinced that yoga it's a very, very useful tool for developing inner peace. There's no way to creating peace in a society with no inner peace.
A lot of people that have adopted a so-called yoga lifestyle are much more environmentally conscious. They're much kinder, they're much more generous, They have embodied much more gratitude in their lives. They're much more compassionate. And so basically you are making better people. That transformation means better behavior. It means better mental attitude. It means better perspective on life. It means less violence. Less violence means less crime, less war. So as a consequence, when you change the individual, you change the society.
Yoga takes us back to who we really are. Amid all the noise and clamor of the material world, it takes us to the peace which we can find within ourselves, to a stillness, a state in which we have gained mastery over ourselves. At the end of the path of self-transformation is the reward of true knowledge, when we would be deeply aware of our oneness with all that there is, the state of yoga.